Hello, welcome back to my channel. I know the background is a little funky here. I am in my husband's car and not my own, but I'm here to film my July wrap-up. I'm here to tell you about all of the books that I read this month. I'm really excited to do so. This has been kind of a stressful month, so I only read 10 books. We were undergoing a bathroom renovation, and honestly, the last thing I really wanted to do was read and talk about books on camera when there was jackhammers just pounding in my head. It is what it is. 10 books, not terrible. And there are a couple of books in this here video that I have not talked to you about before, books that I'm reading for list videos or books that I've read over on my vlog channel, so I definitely have some things to share with you that I haven't shared with you before. Before we get into it, can I tell y'all something a little bit personal? I know I mentioned that we just finished a bathroom renovation, but before the year is up, really excited to do more DIYs at my house, specifically changing out all of the flooring in my house. Carpet with 6 pets is honestly just simply not the vibe, so I am saving up to do LVP flooring throughout my entire house, and while I do that, I'm trying to get on top of my expenses, and today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is here to help. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. I'm currently using Rocket Money to cancel a lot of my unwanted subscriptions because it safely and securely identifies my recurring charges. I love it because you can cancel within the app as well, just a couple of taps, and you don't have to worry about getting on customer service calls. They're the worst. I'm also using Rocket Money to set a budget for myself. It analyzes my spending habits and creates a custom budget that works with my lifestyle. It automatically monitors my spending categories and lets me know when I am going over budget in a certain category. Rocket Money has helped its customers save up to $740 a year when they use all the features, with over 500 million in canceled subscriptions. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/chandler.ainsley or click the link in my description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/chandler.ainsley to get started for free. Now let's get into the wrap-up portion of this video, shall we? Discuss the 10 books that I read this month. Starting off strong with the romantic books that I read early in the month for my KU romantic video. I feel like I found some real gems, and I have to say that I kind of want to do another one of these videos next month. I don't think I will, but I might read a sprinkling of some of these like sequels in my vlogs over on my vlog channel. I think I'm doing Vlogust over there. I think I'm gonna like vlog every single day, and I'm planning on reading a lot over there. So first up, Lady of Darkness. This is a book that I think is like most akin to something like Throne of Glass. There are two main characters, Scarlet and Riker. I say two main characters. I would say Scarlet is definitely the like star of the show in this book. Riker is of course her love interest. She has trained to be an assassin. Oh wow, what does that sound like to you? In this book, she is living with this like family at a country home because she has been like turning down the assassin jobs that like the assassin lord has been giving to her. She's like, I don't want to do it, and he's like, okay, we'll get the fuck out of my house. She's living with these people, and one day this strange man comes along, and like I don't actually know what the purpose of him coming along is, but she enlists his help to, I guess, become a better fighter, and along the journey and along the process of like her learning to fight better, stuff starts to occur. Some stuff starts to happen. Magical stuff, one might say, and I don't really want to go into the details of the plot of this book because I feel like you can find them out for yourself, but it does very much give Throne of Glass, especially with the relationship that happens between Scarlet and Riker. Oh, also, there was like a Fade Prince that killed our heroine's mother back in the day, avenge her death. There's a lot going on here. There's like Fae, there are other creatures as well that we find out, which is really cool. I kind of like that aspect of this book as opposed to something like Throne of Glass. So I guess like Manon is a witch, which is not Fae, so like, you know, anyway, that being said, I had a fun time with this book. It wasn't perfect, I didn't love the romance, and I would say the kind of middle portion of this book got a little boring, but I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to carry on with the series. I can't remember if I gave this book 3 or 4 stars, but it's one that I think a lot of people really fuck with. I was definitely late to the game on. It wasn't my favorite from that video, but I think it's kind of worth your time, frankly. Next up is a book that I really enjoyed. Did I give this book 4 or 5 stars? I can't remember. Heartless Hunter. This book is about Rune and Gideon. Rune is a witch, and in the society, witches are hunted down as being like detrimental to society, essentially. You know, there's like a government task force, I guess, or like police that goes and hunts down witches. Witches used to be in charge back in the day, and they just like manipulated the populace, or at least the few in charge did. And so yeah, now everybody has to be taken out and hunted down. Now Rune is posing as if she is not a witch. At the beginning of the book, her grandma is found out as a witch. Instead of Rune also going down for this, grandma is like, hey, Rune, you need to rat me out, basically. You need to be a fucking snake and rat me out, protect you, basically, right? So her grandma ends up dying. What she does behind the scenes is help other witches, basically. She poses as like this society teen, I guess, because I think this is a YA book, piddles around and acts like she's stupid and vapid and whatever, as a front for the fact that she's helping the witches behind the scene, which I love. And Gideon is, of course, part of like the task force to like hunt down the witches and stuff. He's like head honcho. Everybody loves him because he's like really good at getting the witches. Of course, Hunter and the witch, you know, it's not a good combination, but they start falling for each other. He suspects she's a witch and she is trying to get him off her scent, so they kind of like commingle in a way that is, I'm gonna say toxic, but it's obviously like more to their interactions than just meets the eye. They're not just like courting each other. He thinks she's a witch and kind of wants to kill her. I don't know. It's complicated. It's interesting. This is one of those books that is just so well written. I have to say I was not expecting that going into this book. I really didn't know what to expect at all. And I wasn't super intrigued given the fact that this is YA and I'm not really a YA reader. But if there's one thing I've learned this month is that I don't think I'm done with YA. I don't know if I'll ever be done with YA. If a book, like great recommendations from people and it's young adult, I'm gonna pick it up, okay? I'm a simple gal, and if something has good like Raylo type dynamics like this book, I'm probably gonna pick it up, okay? I'm simple. I'm a simple girl. This was so good, and I really want to read the second book. I also like that it's a duology and I don't have to like invest too much time into it. Maybe I'll read the sequel when it comes out. It's this fall, or is it like next spring? I don't know. I'll read it at some point. I'm looking forward to it. I really, really am. This is a sleeper hit. Definitely a banger. Cover I feel like is kind of, it's like pretty, but also generic. Like I probably wouldn't have picked this up had I not seen the reviews and the hype for it, but yeah, definitely worth your time. All right, next up is a book that I have not talked to y'all about previously, and it is All the Light We Cannot See. I'm reading this for a list video where I read the 76 most popular books of the past decade, and this one, of course, is one of the most popular. It got made into a Netflix, I don't know if it's a miniseries or a movie, but it has been adapted, and it just seems to be very well loved. I didn't love it. I don't like historical fiction, and I say it often, I do not like historical fiction that surrounds World War II. I can appreciate what this book did in showing the horrors of World War II through a different lens. I feel like most accounts of World War II, or most stories, are of someone who was in the military at the time or someone who is unfortunately in a concentration camp. I'm not saying that either way of telling a World War II story is incorrect, because obviously real people experienced both of those realities, but I appreciated this book because it showed more of what people in Europe were experiencing at the time. One of the main characters, Marie-Laure, she is blind, and we get to see how she deals with the reality of being blind and also the realities of living during a really, really challenging time in history. And then we also have, I believe his name is Werner, I believe a German orphan, and he ends up having to join the military, and obviously these two have paths that cross. And I appreciated the perspective, both perspectives. I did like that the story was told differently, but ultimately I just don't really like historical fiction. I feel like most historical fiction kind of romanticizes a time period. This one, it's like I can't say that it does do that, because I don't think it does. I do think this is one of the better World War II stories that I've read, but I just like historical fiction. I would rather read an actual account who was affected by these things, right? Someone who actually was in a camp, someone who actually was in the military, someone who actually lived during this time period. I find that a lot more informative. I don't want to be entertained by the horrors of war. It just doesn't sit right with my spirit, especially when it is something that is so widely known about, if that makes sense. I think I'd be more interested in reading historical fiction about a time that I know nothing about, bringing attention to a time that tends to be overlooked, right? When we read a lot of historical fiction, it tends to be surrounding things that happen amongst white people, right, in Europe. So not to say that World War II is not really sad and fucked up time in history, because it certainly is, but it's just not something I really love to read about. Again, this book does something different. I think I gave this book like 2 or 3 stars. I don't know if I rated it on Goodreads, but it's like a 2 or 3 star read. Like, it's a good, objectively, it's just not a book for me, and that I'm probably gonna have to read more books like this for this video is not exciting to me. Yeah, I think The Nightingale is on that list. Granted, I've already read that one, so I don't have to read it again. I'd love to know your thoughts on historical fiction, like what you personally get out of it. I feel like a lot of times I just see people like to cry. I don't know. I don't see it, but like maybe I'm missing something. I probably am missing something, so let me know in the comments down below what you love about historical fiction, okay? Next up, let's chat about The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. We did not talk about this one. I didn't talk about this anywhere. I did a reread. This is my 3rd read of this book because I read Words of Radiance, which you saw already, I'm pretty sure, for my taste test of Olivia. And I have to say, the 3rd time around, I got got something completely different from the story. And I didn't think that was possible because I've already read it twice. But this time around, I think because I knew more about the world and I knew more about kind of the political system and the magic system and the religion and just like all of the world building of this book, I could really appreciate how the character building was done, right? I could be wrong, but I don't think Brandon Sanderson is like particularly well known for his characterization. I think a lot of people think that he's really great at world building and creating rich worlds and magic systems and things like that. But I have to say, I was really impressed this third time around getting in the heads of the characters. Kaladin is a character that I personally have never really fucked with, never really liked. I've never really understood where he was coming from. But on my third read, I started really understanding Kaladin's character. And like, I'm not saying he's impossible to comprehend, you know, if you read this for just like one time, but in reading it this third time, I feel like I was able to really understand, I guess, the juxtaposition between his desires and his reality and the shitty situations he gets himself into. And reading the second book back to back with this one, also starting to understand like his true character flaws. I don't know, I thought it was really nice. Not just Kaladin as well. Shallan, Yasna, Dalinar, like just understanding their characters even more, I think helped me really enjoy Words of Radiance, which I will talk about now. It's actually the last book that I read in July, but I feel like it makes sense to talk about them together as a little team. Words of Radiance. This was an interesting one for me because I got into it and I was not expecting this one to be as just political as it was. It was really not a very action heavy book until the very end. There was a lot of talk among the high princes, and there was a lot of characters kind of coming together from the first book who had never previously met, like Kaladin and Shallan in the first book in completely different places, and then they find a reason, I guess, to kind of come together in this book. I really liked that, I have to say. I loved seeing characters interact and seeing how they kind of play off of each other. I really, and I talk about this in that vlog, loved the interactions between Kaladin and Shallan because they've been through different things, but definitely trauma, and the way that they experience and handle those things are very different, right? Kaladin deals with depression pretty heavily, is very apathetic and jaded and pissed off a lot of the time. Shallan really tries to handle her trauma with humor and with kind of trying to brush things off and not really handle things and to act like a different person almost. And they see through each other's bullshit a lot of the time and can learn things from each other. I really liked that, and I want to see that expanded on in other books. I don't know how much like page time they'll get together, but I really like that. You know, exploring the other characters even more I think was great. Was missing one of the characters quite a bit through the length of this book, but overall I just had a really good time with it, and I appreciated that the climax of the book, the ending of this book, was very action-packed. It felt really fun to read after spending a lot of time honestly in the politics and also just kind of like trudging around the fucking plateaus. Like, it was nice to see something like really happen and set up the rest of the book. So I really liked this, and I'm kind of bummed that I won't be able to jump immediately into that third book. Maybe I'll find a time to read it in August. I don't know. They're just so long. I really do like to complete books within a video, so I just don't know when I would get an opportunity to read it. And also it's like, I'm finding with fantasy, because I don't read it often, I don't normally have the words to really describe how I'm feeling. I'm just so busy consuming the knowledge and trying to understand things that when it comes to sharing my thoughts and feelings, I don't think I do a very good job at it. That's why I don't really foresee myself reading this super soon, because it would take a long time to read and don't know how to talk about it. It's one of those things I would read just for me and probably only talk about in a wrap up. So we'll see if I end up getting around to it. But yeah, I really enjoy both these books. I give both of them 5 stars and I love them. Also, I have to say, one of the top reviews on Goodreads for this book is shitting on Shallan's character and saying that she doesn't need to exist in these books. And I'm like, how can you be so fucking wrong? I love Shallan's character, and I especially love her in this book. Like, she's so interesting and complex, and I love her. I had to take a brief intermission to cool down my camera that was overheating. I love these Texas summers. The romances that I read for my new release video, I feel like that video is not getting enough love, my friends. It's weird how like some months, y'all, they're so hyped for the new release video. Some months it's just like, we don't give a fuck. And you know what? Fair. That gives me an opportunity to talk about these books again, which I'm excited to do and happy to do. First up, we have Business Casual by Miss Burger King Borison. I actually think her name is like Becca or something like that, but BK Borison, okay? This book is about Nova and Charlie, and it is the 4th book in the Love Light Farms series, really completing the seasonal series. I think I love that about this book series in general, and it's such a creative idea. I don't know if she like set out to do this from the beginning, but each book kind of follows a different season. The first book is winter, this last book is fall. Nova is a tattoo artist. She's trying to open up her own shop, and she's feeling a lot of, not apprehension, but insecurity about her success. She's excited to do this, but she doesn't think she's going to live up to the expectations set onto her by like her older brother, who she's really close with and who is a main main character in one of the other books. Beckett is her older brother. And then we've got Charlie, who's the half brother of Stella from the first book. He is in business. He hates his dad. He's trying to just like figure out his place in life because he's feeling a little bit lost himself. He knows he doesn't really love his job, but he doesn't really know what to do and where to go from here. At the start of this book, the reason these two come together is because Nova propositions Charlie, who has been like flirting with her off and on for a long time, propositions him to hook up with her at this wedding. And he is obviously attracted to her, but kind of turns her down because he doesn't necessarily want a hookup. And he's also confused as to like why she didn't want to hook up in the first place if she's been like denying his flirting for this long. So watching them do this kind of complicated conversational thing, get into these like hookups together, and then evolve into a relationship, which is really sweet to see. It's definitely different than BK's other books in that this is a very hookup heavy book. There are more explicit terms used when the sex scenes kind of come about. It was no less charming than her other books. I really appreciated the way that Charlie really finds himself in this book, and the way that our heroine, she doesn't necessarily grovel, but kind of helps him find his place, I thought was so romantic. I don't know, I see a lot of Hayden in Charlie. I just personally related to some of the things that he was going through, not like for myself, but like things that he went through I've seen in Hayden. Nova like step up and support Charlie, I thought was really sweet, and I just really like their relationship. I thought it was cute. I gave this book 4 stars. It wasn't quite perfect for me. I wanted a little less hooking up and a little bit more relationship development, but that's just on me. It's not that the relationship development was necessarily poor. I just want a little bit more. The Au Pair Affair by Miss Tessa Bailey. This is the second book in her, I don't know what the fuck the name of the series is, but the first one is for Fangirl Down, which I read back in February and didn't enjoy. I have to report that The Au Pair Affair was better, but still not great. This book's about Tallulah and Burgess. She is, I want to say, an aspiring marine biologist going to grad school in Boston. She ends up getting connected with Burgess because he is best friends with the heroine, the first book's boyfriend, and so she like kind of mutual friend situation, gets hooked up with him to live with him and also be a live-in nanny for his 12-year-old girl. Our heroine at first is like apprehensive at the beginning of the book to live with this guy she doesn't know. She eventually does live with him, and they strike up a friendship that turns into something more. Liked it okay. I don't know, I think I'm getting a little burnt out on these Tessa Bailey heroes that are just a little bit over the top. He is straight up obsessed with her at the beginning of the story. Normally I'm really into that, and in the second book, or the next book I'm going to talk about, I'm really obsessed with that idea, but it's all about the execution and this like, I don't know, beating your chest like grumpy hero, macho man, alpha hero, like it's not really my thing, and I feel like that's kind of what was going on here, right? Burgess is a hockey player. He is kind of rough and tumble, and I will say that is talked about. Our heroine doesn't want to necessarily be with a guy who is a brute, but I still feel like their relationship wasn't this like sweet tender thing that I wanted it to be. It wasn't bad by any means, but I just like wasn't that impressed with the storytelling, and I think, you know, because so many of Tessa's books follow the same formula, it just felt like the same thing over and over again. It just kind of felt like nothing new, which I feel like I am starting to have hard time with. I don't know. I really need there to be a little bit of originality in each story. Another thing that I pointed out in the vlog is that I feel like often with Tessa Bailey books, there's not a lot of growth on the part of either hero or heroine. In this book, the hero does grow a little bit, but it wasn't anything I found impressive. I really love the Bellinger sisters books because, you know, Piper grows so much in her story, and I think that is what adds to the charm of it. We just don't really have that in this book. The heroine's been through some shit for sure, but I don't think she really grows a ton over the course of the story. So anyway, 2-ish, 3-ish stars. It was fine. Moving on to Play Along, which was, I think, my favorite book that I read this entire month. This book is about Isaiah and Kennedy, and it is the 4th book, I believe, in this, is it the Windy City series? Yeah, so this is a baseball romance, which I have to say I'm surprised I liked because I don't like baseball, and I don't really care about baseball players, like at all. It's just not sexy to me. I know a lot of people like baseball player ass. I might be swayed though because of Isaiah in this book. Isaiah is a baseball player and Kennedy is a doctor, and at the start of the story, she is going to become like the second doctor in charge, I guess, at this baseball team, for the baseball team. She comes to interview. I guess the like head doctor was under the impression that she was a man, and when she shows up and is a woman, he's like, you know what, I don't actually have a spot on the team or a spot on, you know, my team for you. You're gonna have to be a physical therapist, and no like an assistant trainer or something. Like, definitely not, it does not go with the level of education that she has, essentially. But she agrees to it because she really wants to be a doctor for a team, and she thinks that this could be a stepping stone for her because she's only ever worked, I believe, in like college sports, and now she's going to be working for like an MLB team. So cool for her. Shitty because she's not actually like getting the job that she wanted. Isaiah is a baseball player who's been obsessed with Kennedy ever since she interviewed at this job. And for the past 3 years, she has been engaged. The engagement is broken, and now he is pursuing Kennedy. And Kennedy has been attracted to Isaiah, but just really has not been in a place where she wants to engage in a romantic relationship. She has some like trauma in her past from her family and also from her past relationship, her past romantic relationship. And she's been basically led to believe that she is cold and unfeeling and that like no one would want to be with her. Isaiah really like turns that around for her. Also, in this book, there is a marriage of convenience situation where she propositions him to get married in Vegas. They get married in Vegas, and then they have to kind of pretend to be married for the season so that she can keep her job. And it was just so achingly romantic, the way that Isaiah pursued Kennedy, the way that he understood her, met her where she was, and helped get her out of her shell and out of her comfort zone, because Kennedy really craved that like romantic love and that affection and that physical touch, but didn't really know how to go about getting it. And to see Isaiah be so patient with her was so romantic. And Isaiah also had trauma in his past as well. His mom passed away in a really sad car accident. He has a fear of other people in his life getting into a car accident, and every time it storms, he is, he goes through a hard time. Like he is traumatized by that, and she is there for him. Oh, I just love every part of this. It was so good, and it wasn't super long. That's the one issue I've had with Liz Tomford's books in the past, is they're too long, and this one was under 400 pages and was able to pack such an emotional punch, and I'm so excited to see what she does next. So I loved this. You really need to pick this one up. Now let's talk about the last 2 books that I read this month. First up is The Match by Sarah Adams. This was a Libro FM advanced listener copy for the month. I picked it up on a whim because I was doing my nails. I just learned how to do dip nails myself, and I just needed something. I needed something to just plug in and listen to that was a little low stakes and a little bit less challenging than something like Words of Radiance, so this was okay. This book is about Evie and Jake. Evie works for a non-profit organization called, I believe, Southern Service Paws, where she connects people with service dogs. I think she helps train the service dogs as well. Her family wanted her to marry wealthy. She lives in Charleston, South Carolina, and they really wanted her to like marry wealthy and just, I guess, kind of pretend that the real world doesn't exist. And she was like, fuck that, I want to help other people. She is epileptic and has a service dog herself. A lot of this book, I would say, is spent with her kind of arguing with her family and trying to like make a path for herself and a life for herself, making very little money at this nonprofit. Her romance is with Jake, who is the father of a little girl who also has epilepsy and reaches out to Southern Service Paws to get a dog of her own. She goes behind her dad's back to do this. Jake doesn't really want anything to do with our heroine because for some reason he thinks she's a scammer and or doesn't believe his daughter needs the service dog. He's obviously convinced as the story goes on, and the romantic relationship is between Evie and Jake. Duh. I didn't love this because I personally felt like Jake was kind of a dick to Evie for no reason, and I feel like so much of this book was spent with the family at the forefront, with Evie's relationship with her family at the forefront. And don't get me wrong, y'all know how much I love when families are part of stories, because I do think that your relationship with your family has an impact on your romantic relationship, whether it's them meddling, whether it is the way that you feel like you can experience love because of the love you've experienced growing up. Like, family is important, but in this book it was just kind of depressing, honestly, and there was a lot of time spent on it, and I just think the romance wasn't anything special. I didn't really love Jake's character. I didn't find him to be very charming. He was grumpy for no reason. I don't know. It was not for me, okay? And then the last book that I read this month was another book for that taste test video, is A Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This is a thriller about 2 women, Lucy and Savvy. Lucy is accused of murdering her best friend, Savvy, and she leaves town and is chilling in California for a few years until she comes back to town, her small Texas town, to go to her grandma's birthday party. And while she's there, she is approached by a podcast host about this cold case. He has been like doing obviously podcast episodes on this case. It has reawakened and reinvigorated this small community into figuring out what happened. Lucy wants to find out what happened too, because she has no memory of what happened the night that Savvy died. Lucy is also sort of a divisive character in that like most of the people in her town don't really like her. I really liked this. There was so much small town drama. There was so much like, oh, so-and-so is cheating on this person and is like banging this person on the side. It was kind of fun. It was low-key a very fun time. I think that it had a realistic ending that I felt was satisfying. I liked it. It was a good time. I don't feel like I need to, talk in depth about this one. It's a thriller. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I think if you're looking for something that is kind of dramatic, it has a little bit of like domestic thriller vibes, but it's like, I don't know, not goofy, I think you should pick it up. I'm not really someone who tends to be into domestic thrillers because I'm like, I don't care really don't care that this guy's cheating on his wife and probably like killed her because of it. I don't know. I like need something a little bit more exciting, and this one is definitely more exciting. And I liked the like podcast episodes sprinkled in as well, especially listening to this as an audiobook. You get to get more of that podcast experience. So I liked this. I gave this one 4 stars, I believe. In hindsight, no, it's definitely 4 stars. It's not like a perfect thriller for me. I think my perfect thriller is a little bit more psychological, but this was quite good, and I did in fact enjoy it. So those are the 10 books that I read in the month of July. Really hoping to amp up the reading in August as I embark on Vlogust, you know, vlogging every single day. Overall, it was a good reading month. I mean, I think I should probably be kinder to myself considering that I read a book that was, I think, like 1,000 pages long. You know, that definitely takes some time. So, no, it was definitely time. Wait, no, I read 2 books this month that are really fucking long. So, you know, proud of myself. Pat on the back for reading that much. Anyway, that's it for me. In the comments down below, please let me know what your favorite book was this month. And if it sounds interesting, I might have to pick it up myself. I love it so much, and I will see you in the next one.